Seniors, stop. There are 9 foods you should never, ever refrigerate. Here is precisely why. What if the very appliance you trust to keep your food fresh is silently undermining your health, day after day? It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But hidden inside that cold box are 9 common foods that undergo negative changes when refrigerated, in ways that most of us were never taught. This isn't just about a change in taste or texture. We're talking about concerning chemical reactions, the loss of vital nutrients, and even the growth of bacteria, all triggered by cold storage. And here's the most concerning part. A vast majority of people, over 60, continue to refrigerate these specific foods, completely unaware of the potential harm it could be doing to their digestive system, their heart health, and even their cognitive function. Some health experts are now beginning to question if our modern reliance on refrigeration for everything might be a contributing factor to certain chronic health issues. But today, we're going to look at the real science behind it. In this video, we will reveal the 9 foods you should move out of your refrigerator immediately, and the simple, correct ways to store them for maximum safety and nutrition. And you will want to wait until you hear about number 2 on our list. It is the one that might just shock you the most. Every point we make is supported by established scientific research, and we have included links to our sources in the description below. Before we begin, we would love to know where you're watching from today. Let us know in the comments, and tell us if you have ever noticed that certain foods taste or feel different after being in the fridge. We read and reply to every single comment, offering personalized tips and advice. And please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more essential health updates just like this. Now, without any further delay, let's get started. Number 9, potatoes. Here is something that may come as a genuine surprise. When you put potatoes into your refrigerator, you could be setting the stage for the creation of a harmful compound. This is not an exaggeration. The cold temperature inside a fridge causes the starches in a potato to convert into sugars. This process is known as cold-induced sweetening. This change isn't just about making them taste odd. When you take these refrigerated potatoes and cook them at a high temperature, like frying or roasting, those newly formed sugars can combine with an amino acid to create a chemical called acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. A study from a leading agricultural university found that potatoes stored at typical refrigerator temperatures showed a 300% increase in their sugar content in just 2 weeks. That's 3 times the amount of sugar, and it happens much faster than you would think. The researchers in that study tested over 500 potato samples, and the results were consistent across all different varieties. The texture is also ruined. Cold temperatures cause the cell structure to break down, which makes your potatoes gritty and gives them an unpleasant, sweet flavor. Have you ever wondered why your mashed potatoes or roasted potatoes just taste a little bit off? This is why. The refrigerator is fundamentally changing them at a cellular level. So, what is the proper way to store potatoes? Keep them in a cool, dark, and dry place, somewhere around 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. A pantry, a cellar, or even a simple cardboard box in a cool closet works perfectly. The key here is darkness. Exposure to light triggers the production of solanine, which is the compound that creates that green tint on potato skins and can be toxic if consumed in large amounts. Store them in a paper bag or a well-ventilated basket that allows for air circulation. You should never use plastic bags, as they trap moisture and will cause the potatoes to rot quickly. Here's a professional tip that most people don't know. Store your potatoes far away from your onions. Both of these vegetables release natural gases that cause the other to spoil much faster. Try to keep them at least a few feet apart. With this proper storage method, your potatoes can stay fresh and healthy for up to 3 months. In the refrigerator, they'll be compromised in just a couple of weeks. Number 8, bread. This one surprises nearly everyone. Your refrigerator is actually making your bread go stale much faster. It seems completely counterintuitive, but the science is crystal clear. Refrigeration speeds up a process called starch retrogradation. That is simply a scientific term for when the starch molecules in the bread begin to crystallize, which forces moisture out of the bread itself. Researchers at a prominent food science institute discovered that bread stored at refrigerator temperatures goes stale 6 times faster than bread that is kept at room temperature. That is a 600% difference. They measured the firmness of the bread over time and found that the refrigerated loaf became hard and crumbly in just 3 days. Meanwhile, the room temperature bread remained fresh and pleasant for a full week. The cold temperature also systematically destroys the bread's natural flavor compounds. Those delicate, volatile organic compounds that give freshly baked bread its wonderful aroma break down very rapidly in the cold. So your taste buds are not deceiving you when you think refrigerated bread tastes like cardboard. The best way to store your bread is in a proper bread box or a simple paper bag at room temperature. The container should allow for a little bit of air circulation to prevent mold, while also maintaining just enough humidity to keep the loaf soft. If you find you can't finish a loaf within a few days, here's the best strategy. Slice the entire loaf first, and then put it in the freezer. Freezing actually preserves bread far better than refrigerating it, because the process happens so quickly that large ice crystals don't have a chance to form and damage the bread structure. When you want a slice, just take it directly from the freezer and pop it into your toaster. It will taste almost as good as it did when it was fresh. The key is to go straight from the freezer to the toaster. Don't let the slices thaw on the counter first, because that is when moisture issues can begin. Number 7, honey. Honey is perhaps nature's most perfect food. It quite literally never spoils. Archaeologists have discovered 3,000-year-old honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that was still perfectly edible. But if you put that same honey into your refrigerator, you can ruin its wonderful properties in just a matter of weeks. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize very quickly. While this isn't dangerous, it completely changes the character of the honey. That smooth, golden liquid turns into a thick, grainy, hard mass that won't dissolve properly in your tea or spread easily on your toast. More importantly, refrigeration can inadvertently introduce moisture into your honey jar. Every single time you open that cold jar in a warmer room, condensation forms inside. Moisture is the #1 enemy of honey. A study from the National Honey Board found that honey stored at temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit can lose up to 35% of its natural antimicrobial properties. Those are the very compounds that make honey a natural antibiotic and healer. Ancient cultures used honey to treat wounds precisely because of these properties, and your refrigerator is actively destroying them. The flavor profile is also negatively affected. Honey contains over 180 different compounds that create its complex and unique taste. Cold storage causes these compounds to break down unevenly. Your expensive, raw, artisanal honey can start to taste like simple sugar syrup. You should always store honey at room temperature in a tightly sealed container. The ideal temperature range is between 64 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Be sure to keep it away from direct sunlight, which can also degrade its quality over time. If your honey does happen to crystallize, please don't throw it out. Simply place the jar in a bowl of warm water and stir it gently. It will return to its liquid state without losing its beneficial properties. Here's something else most people don't realize. The color of honey is a good indicator of its antioxidant content. Generally, darker honey contains more antioxidants. However, refrigeration affects dark honey even more severely than light honey. Those precious antioxidants are particularly vulnerable to cold temperatures. Number 6, coffee. For all the coffee lovers out there, you might want to brace yourselves. That expensive bag of coffee beans you're carefully storing in the refrigerator is being systematically destroyed. The refrigerator is one of the worst possible environments for coffee. Here is why. Coffee beans are incredibly porous. This means they absorb odors and flavors from everything that's around them. Think about it. Your refrigerator is filled with all kinds of smells. from last night's leftovers to that wedge of cheese in the back. Your coffee is soaking up all of those aromas like a sponge. That could be why your morning cup of coffee tastes a little strange. But odor absorption is only the beginning of the problem. The constant temperature fluctuations from opening and closing your refrigerator door create condensation on the beans. This moisture triggers premature aging of the beans and can even lead to the growth of mold. A study conducted by coffee industry experts found that refrigerated coffee beans can lose up to 60% of their aromatic compounds in just 1 week. 1. The natural oils in coffee beans, which contain most of the flavor, solidify in cold temperatures. When you grind these cold beans, the solidified oils don't extract properly during the brewing process. You're left with a weak, flavorless cup of coffee that tastes nothing like it was intended to. The proper way to store coffee is in an airtight, opaque container at room temperature. The container needs to be opaque because light also degrades the quality of the coffee. The ideal storage temperature is between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with as little temperature fluctuation as possible. It is best to buy coffee in smaller quantities that you know you will use within a couple of weeks. Once you open a bag of coffee, the clock starts ticking. Oxygen is the other great enemy of coffee's flavor. Some coffee enthusiasts use special vacuum-sealed containers, but honestly, simply buying fresh coffee and using it quickly is the most effective strategy. If you absolutely must store coffee for a longer term, the freezer is a better option than the refrigerator. But there is a very important rule. You can only freeze it once. You should divide your coffee into weekly portions, freeze them in airtight bags, and only take out what you need for the week. Never, ever refreeze coffee. The moisture damage from repeated freezing and thawing is completely irreversible. Number 5. Garlic. Storing garlic in the refrigerator is a recipe for disaster. Not only does it lose its powerful flavor and potency, but it can also become less beneficial for your health. Let me explain why this is so important, especially for seniors who often rely on garlic for its incredible health benefits. When garlic is stored in the cold, damp environment of a refrigerator, it often begins to sprout. Those little green shoots you see aren't just unsightly. They're also quite bitter and can cause digestive upset for some people. But that is not even the worst part. The moist, cold environment of your refrigerator is the perfect breeding ground for mold on garlic. Some of these molds can produce mycotoxins, which are seriously harmful compounds. Research from a top agricultural university in California showed that refrigerated garlic loses about 50% of its allicin content within just 10 days. Allicin is the powerhouse compound that gives garlic its incredible medicinal properties. It's what makes garlic antibacterial, antiviral, and so beneficial for your heart health. By putting your garlic in the refrigerator, you are essentially throwing away half of its health benefits before you even use it. The texture also suffers immensely. Cold temperatures cause the cell walls of the garlic to break down, making the cloves mushy and almost impossible to chop properly. If you've ever tried to mince refrigerated garlic, you know it turns into a sticky paste that gets all over your knife and cutting board. You should always store whole garlic bulbs in a cool, dry place with good air circulation. A mesh bag or a simple wire basket works perfectly. The ideal temperature is around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Never store garlic in a plastic bag or any type of sealed container. It needs to breathe. Keep your garlic away from direct sunlight, which can cause it to become bitter. Also, try not to store it near your stove. The heat and humidity from cooking will encourage it to sprout much faster. With proper storage, a whole head of garlic can last for up to 6 months. Once you break the head apart, you should use the individual cloves within about 10 days for the best quality and flavor. Here's a tip that will immediately improve your cooking. Room temperature garlic releases its flavors much more readily than cold garlic. Those essential oils that carry all the wonderful flavor need to be fluid, not solidified by the cold. Your dishes will taste noticeably better when you use properly stored garlic. Number 4. Bananas. Bananas in refrigerators are a terrible combination. If you put a green or yellow banana in the fridge, you can watch it turn into a black, mushy mess in no time. But the damage goes far beyond just its appearance. The cold temperature causes what scientists refer to as chilling injury. Bananas are tropical fruits that evolved in warm climates and never developed a natural defense against the cold. Their cell wall simply cannot handle it. The cell membranes rupture, enzymes leak out, and the fruit essentially begins to break down from the inside out. A study from an international Department of Agriculture found that bananas stored below 56 degrees Fahrenheit lose 80% of their vitamin C content within just 5 days. They also stop ripening and developing new nutrients. Under normal conditions, bananas continue to create beneficial compounds as they ripen on your counter. Refrigeration brings this entire process to a screeching halt. That black skin isn't just ugly. It's a sign that the fruit's natural defense mechanisms have completely failed. Those black and brown spots are areas where the fruit tissue has actually died. This damaged tissue can become a breeding ground for bacteria and mold, even if you can't see it yet. You should store bananas at room temperature, ideally between 56 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. If you can, hang them on a banana hook to prevent bruising on the counter. The ethylene gas they naturally produce needs to be able to circulate around the fruit for even improper ripening. Here is a trick that can help you manage your bananas. To speed up the ripening process, put them in a paper bag with an apple. To slow down ripening, separate the bananas from the bunch and wrap each individual stem in plastic wrap. This can reduce the release of ethylene gas by up to 40%. Once a banana has reached your ideal level of ripeness, you can put it in the refrigerator for 1 or 2 days at most to hold it there. The skin will still turn black, but the fruit inside will remain edible for a short time. A much better option is to peel your overripe bananas and freeze them for smoothies. Frozen bananas actually create a wonderfully creamy texture in smoothies without needing to add ice. Number 3, onions. Storing whole onions in the refrigerator might be one of the most common food storage mistakes people make. The damage is almost immediate and is completely irreversible. Here is what happens the moment you put a whole onion inside that cold, humid appliance. The humidity level in a typical refrigerator is around 95%. Onions, however, need a much drier environment, ideally with 65% humidity or less. That excess moisture in the fridge quickly penetrates the onion's papery outer layers, creating the perfect environment for mold to grow. Black mold on onions can produce aflatoxins, which are some of the most potent carcinogenic substances known to science. But even before mold has a chance to appear, the cold temperature starts converting the onion starches into sugars. A study from a major Texas university found that refrigerated onions showed a 270% increase in sugar content after just 2 weeks in the cold. This completely alters their flavor profile and how they behave when you cook them. Your savory French onion soup might end up tasting strangely sweet. The texture also becomes soft and mushy because tiny ice crystals form inside the onion cells and rupture them. Once this cellular damage occurs, the onion loses its ability to caramelize properly in a pan. Those beautiful golden brown sweet onions you see in restaurants are impossible to achieve with an onion that's been in the fridge. You must store whole, uncut onions in a cool, dry, and well-ventilated space. A pantry or a cellar is ideal. The temperature should be between 45 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Never store them in plastic bags. Onions must be able to breathe. A mesh bag, a basket, or even an old pair of pantyhose works wonderfully. And as we mentioned earlier, keep onions far away from potatoes. It bears repeating because it's so important. They release gases that cause each other to spoil. Also, keep them out of direct sunlight, which can trigger them to sprout. Now, once you cut an onion, the rules change completely. A cut onion should be stored in the refrigerator in an airtight container and used within 7 days. The cut surface is vulnerable to bacteria, so at that point, refrigeration becomes necessary. But for whole onions, never in the fridge. Number 2. Tomatoes, and now we have arrived at the food that will likely shock you the most. Tomatoes. The truth about refrigerating tomatoes is so contrary to what many of us have done for years that it can be hard to believe. But the science is absolutely undeniable. Researchers at the University of Florida made a groundbreaking discovery. Refrigeration doesn't just harm a tomato's texture and taste, it actually switches off its genes. Specifically, it deactivates the genes that are responsible for producing the hundreds of compounds that create a tomato's wonderful flavor. Once these genes are shut down by the cold, they never fully recover. Even if you take the tomato out of the fridge and let it warm up on the counter, the genetic damage is permanent. The study examined over 25,000 different genes in tomatoes and found that temperatures below 54 degrees Fahrenheit deactivated hundreds of them. At a genetic level, the tomato literally stops being a tomato. It becomes, in essence, a red water balloon with very little flavor and diminished nutritional value. Here is where this becomes especially serious for seniors' health. Tomatoes are one of our best dietary sources of lycopene, a powerful antioxidant that helps protect against heart disease and certain types of cancer. Cold storage can reduce the bioavailability of this lycopene by up to 65%. But it's not just a 65% loss. For your body to absorb lycopene effectively, it needs to be paired with certain enzymes that are naturally present in the tomato. Refrigeration destroys these essential enzymes completely. So, even the small amount of lycopene that remains becomes largely useless to your body. The destruction of the texture is clearly visible under a microscope. Ice crystals form between the cell walls, creating millions of microscopic punctures throughout the fruit's flesh. This is precisely why refrigerated tomatoes become mealy and grainy. Their cellular structure has been shredded from the inside out. You must store your tomatoes at room temperature, with the stem side facing down. This simple trick helps prevent moisture from getting in through the stem scar and also blocks bacteria from entering. The ideal temperature is between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep them out of direct sunlight, but don't hide them away in a dark cabinet either. They benefit from indirect light to maintain their nutrients. Never store tomatoes in a plastic bag. They release ethylene gas that needs to escape. If this gas gets trapped, it dramatically accelerates the rotting process. A single spoiled tomato in a sealed plastic bag can ruin the entire batch in just 24 hours. Ripe tomatoes should be used within 3 to 5 days. If you have too many, the best solution is to make a sauce or soup and freeze that instead. Cooked tomato products actually have more bioavailable lycopene than raw ones, and freezing preserves it perfectly. Number 1. Avocados. We have saved the most important for last. Avocados. What happens to an avocado in the refrigerator is a nutritional travesty. The destruction of its health benefits is so complete and so devastating that it makes the issues with the other foods on our list seem minor in comparison. Avocados contain over 20 essential nutrients. They are one of the very few fruits that provide a significant amount of healthy monounsaturated fats, specifically oleic acid, which is crucial for brain health in seniors. But refrigeration systematically destroys these precious fats through a process called lipid peroxidation. The cold temperature causes the fats to oxidize or go rancid at a rapid rate, creating harmful free radicals instead of providing beneficial nutrients. Researchers at Stanford University discovered that avocados stored in the refrigerator lose 90% of their antioxidant activity within just 4 days, a 90% loss. These antioxidants, including vitamins E and C, are what make avocados so valuable for aging bodies. They help fight inflammation, they support eye health, and they boost your body's ability to absorb nutrients from other foods you eat. But here's the truly shocking part. The cold temperature doesn't just halt the ripening process, it actually triggers an enzyme that actively works to destroy the fruit from within. This enzyme, polyphenol oxidase, is the same one that causes browning when an avocado is exposed to air. But in the cold, it goes into overdrive. breaking down the cell walls and converting healthy compounds into bitter and potentially harmful substances. The change in texture is irreversible. That smooth, creamy avocado you were looking forward to turns into a stringy, watery disappointment. The fats separate from the fiber, creating an oily mess that is impossible to mash properly. Your guacamole is ruined before you even begin. You should always store unripe avocados at room temperature, ideally between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Place them in a bowl on your counter, not in a closed bag. They need good air circulation to ripen evenly and properly. To speed up the ripening, place them in a paper bag with a banana. The extra ethylene gas from the banana can cut the ripening time in half. Once an avocado is perfectly ripe, it can be refrigerated for a maximum of 2 to 3 days if absolutely necessary, but be aware that the loss in quality is significant. A better strategy is to buy avocados at different stages of ripeness, so you always have a perfect one ready to eat. If you cut an avocado and can't use the whole thing, here is the secret to saving it. Keep the pit in the unused half, and brush the exposed flesh with a little lemon or lime juice. Then store it in an airtight container with a small piece of cut onion. The sulfur compounds released from the onion naturally prevent browning without affecting the avocado's taste. This method can keep a cut avocado fresh for up to 2 days at room temperature. The difference between a properly stored avocado and a refrigerated one is like night and day. Proper storage preserves those brain-boosting fats, maintains the creamy texture, and keeps all those age-fighting nutrients intact. Your body will thank you. In the end, the simple truth about refrigeration has been overlooked for too long. These 9 foods represent not just wasted money on groceries, but also immeasurable lost nutrition. More importantly, they represent missed opportunities for us to achieve better health in our golden years. Every single nutrient counts when you are working to fight the effects of aging, maintain your cognitive function, and stay active and healthy. Don't let your refrigerator sabotage your efforts. By storing these foods properly, you can reclaim their full nutritional power. Your body deserves nothing less than the very best, and now you know exactly how to provide it. Now we want to hear from you. Which of the foods on this list shocked